Welcome to The Dead Life. Here's world-renowned medium, Allison DuBois.
Welcome to The Dead Life. For those of you new to the show, I'm Allison DuBois. I inspired the hit television show Medium. I'm a New York Times best-selling author, and I've written 6 books on the afterlife. For those of you who are questioning life after death or your abilities, you might want to pick one of those books up because I get a lot of the questions that I've written about in those 6 books, and it'll give you the answers you're looking for. Today, I have my husband Joe in studio acting as my scientific sounding board. We're answering call-in questions sent in by my fabulous listeners. If you have a question about life after death, abilities, a paranormal experience, or a relationship problem you're having, call me at 802-332-3811, and you might just get an answer on my show. To book a reading with me, email us at booking@allisondubois.com. You can watch past and present episodes of The Dead Life on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to pick up a bottle of my Divination 22 Money Potion Vodka or Love Potion at One Handsome Bastard in Old Town Scottsdale or Handlebar J's to set your intentions for 2025. So, Joe, thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Well, you're welcome. I love coming on the show.
Well, we appreciate you being here. You, like I said, you're my scientific sounding board in this process. So I'm able to give, obviously, the spiritual perspective, and you're able to give both, really, because you have been around me for quite a while and you know both sides.
I'm still learning every day.
I'm still learning every day. There's always something new to learn from the other side. And that's why I like the call-in questions so much, because people will ask me things maybe I haven't thought of in 20 years, or, you know, I actually have the answer in my vernacular of the other side, but haven't really touched on in a while. And I find it easy to answer and then to get that question answered for the call-ins. And I do like the relationship questions that they call in with too, because what I do in life readings is tap into their energy and am able to pull information on the relationship. But I always tell people, make sure you really want to know the answer, because I'm going to tell you exactly what I get in regards to your relationship. And you could take the advice, you could leave the advice, but if you leave the advice, don't expect anything to change. That's the way it works. Do the work.
Well, and then you also have Sophia on for those relationship questions, because she gives that nice 20-something perspective.
The Gen Z perspective. Yeah. I do like that as well. We have some questions set aside that we're going to address with her next week. So,
oh, that'll be great.
Yeah. Some of them involve TikTok. I'm like, Sophia, this is not my playing field here.
Bailiwick.
This is not at all. So let's go ahead and take the first call in.
All right. This sounds good.
Hi, Allison. My name is Christina, and I'm a longtime listener and a longtime fan. So my question pertains to thrifting. And I know that sounds weird, but thrifting is really in right now. And each time I go to the thrift store, I can't help but find something and then put it back down. I'm wondering, or I'm asking, how do you cleanse the things that you thrift? Is it with Granny Magic, Sage? Do you advise thrifting? I just want to hear your thoughts, since it's such a trending topic. I find myself wanting to do it and then being like, I don't want to bring something into my house that, you know, was previously owned by someone. It could be good or it could be bad. So just curious your thoughts on that. And secondly, I am a Virgo, and I've been following kind of like what's coming my way or what's happening right now. And it all comes secondary to how I feel. I try to kind of not let that dictate or rule and really look at it unbiasedly. But man, I am feeling it. I'm 31. I'm climbing the corporate ladder. I'm not selling my soul to do it, but man, I am just feeling it from all angles. And then my husband is also feeling it. He is a Sagittarius. Oh, no, not Sagittarius. Excuse me. He is a Pisces. And man, we are both under the same household, just like, what is happening to us? It's uncomfortable. It feels, it doesn't feel unsettling in a bad way. It just feels like we're both being pulled into something better. And with that comes change, and that is uncomfortable. So it's just wanted to hear your thoughts on like where we are right now for Virgos, because your girl is feeling it. Anyways, thank you. Love listening to you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Okay. So there was going to be an edit in there, but that didn't happen. So,
well, I just read that now.
I'm going to answer both parts of the questions since it's already run through. The thrifting, can you cleanse it with granny magic? Sure. Now, being me, I find that if I'm in a thrift store and I get a bad feeling or bad mojo emanating from an item, I'm not buying it. So I can tell whether or not it was owned by someone who was upbeat or low energy or dark energy. And I think most people will get a sense of if something feels dark in nature and it doesn't feel good to them. And in that case, I say, do not bring it home. Even if you're going to cleanse it, leave it where it's at. It's not for you. So you could cleanse things. I mean, Granny Magic has all kinds of product that is sage sprays that she has, that sort of thing, where you can try and apply and set your intention for the energy that you want that item to have. But psychometry exists for a reason. Now, psychics and mediums have always been able to hold objects and pull impressions off of them. If you're one of those people, you know who you are. And when you do pick up objects that do carry the vibration of people who owned it before, you get a sense of if you vibe with it, if you don't vibe with it. So the cleansing part, if you want to be safe, get some sage spray, go ahead and set your intention for the item, what you want to bring into your home. If you're not a sensitive, you're not, particularly good at picking up the energies, I would do that. If you are a sensitive, trust your gut. And if something just doesn't feel right, don't bring it home. Did you have anything to add on that part?
Well, that's a really, I think that falls in the category of, boy, I have thought of that maybe a little bit, but I don't think about it too much. If somebody had really, really strong energy, I could see that they have it imprinted on it. But if it's something you really love, you probably could override it with your own, like mojo.
I find the things that carry the heaviest energy where you would probably know right away is if it was used in a murder or
that's what I would,
something of that nature.
If you find a gun, you probably want to turn that into
right.
But day-to-day stuff. But I suppose if it's somebody's purse. Oh, if you get a heart transplant, you probably pick up a little bit on the person that gave it to you. But just general thrifting, I think you could probably get over that. Right?
I think so too. The other thing is if somebody was in the occult and they painted something or used an item in their process, that could be a problem.
I got to say, I've come across some stuff like that from time to time where you'll see something and I just pass it by. I'm just like, too much.
Yeah, I find with art, strangely, that art is one of those artifacts that can be a problem because a lot of people put their intention and their vision into the creation. And that can carry dark energy if they're painting something dark. Some people buy art from serial killers or, if somebody's just in a bad mood or something, I think that's something you can easily get rid of. It's if there's terror of some sort involved or a ritual that's of an occult nature, that would be
that's
what I would worry more about. But thrifting in general, I would say is not a problem, especially records. because people are usually pretty
Right.
happy when they're listening to music. And if you're buying a record that's of a dark nature, maybe you need to look into that,
Right.
why you're buying
Well,
that in the first place.
Yeah. And I'm thinking if you're thrifting in the part of town that you're from, and people are probably kind of like you anyway. Right? I mean, city by
Sure.
city,
You know,
right? Yeah.
some of the things when you go looking for antiques, like real antiques, they can be tied to somebody who got old and died, or somebody who died
Mhm.
and their things are being sold. And, you know, in those situations, there's usually nothing dark connected to that object, even if they did die, because we all die. So, you know, that happens. It's if it was violent.
Yeah, and I think I have to add this. If you do, we've all seen the Brady Bunch. If you find a tiki or a monkey paw or something like that, just
If I find a monkey paw, it's getting slung right back. Like it's just not holding on to that. And then she had questions about, and of course she did because she's a Virgo.
I know.
Things not quite going in her direction, not flowing. Ironically, astrologically, we just entered a 3-week period, the only 3-week period of 2025 where we have no planets retrograde, which is why everything feels better to people right now, because you don't feel like you're fighting every energy. Even for small things, not being able to get them done is what a retrograde feels like when you feel like you can't get something done, you're being blocked. We have none of that for the next 3 weeks. I know that Virgos were particularly affected over the last couple of months, being in a Pisces opposition and all of that they were going through. But I always tell people, because my friend Tom doesn't really do videos for Instagram on what's going on astrologically, it's written on your piece of paper because I made notes. I believe it's the astrological weatherman. Is that right?
Add spiritual weatherman.
Spiritual weatherman. Thank you. Oh, see? Disaster averted.
Right.
The spiritual weatherman. Follow him on Instagram. He has the funniest, most vivacious video clips for everything going on in astrology and specific signs that are being affected. So if you want to know what's been going on with you, I think that would help. I do want to point out the obvious. She married her opposition. So if you look 6 months across from your birthday, that's our anti-birthday, AKA opposition. So the fact that they're married to one another, they're the opposite end of the same energy, but they go about everything completely differently. And if things feel like they don't flow, that could be part of the reason. It's not that oppositions can't marry. It depends on the whole chart. It just does add a level of difficulty in getting where you want to go and having different visions of how to do that. So I did think it was funny when she said Sagittarius. I don't know if you caught that, but girl, did you date a Sagittarius in the past? Because that sounded like it might have been a Freudian slip of some sort, because it rolled off her tongue so easily. It just made me curious. Anybody else out there catch that? So did you have any comments around the flow of the home?
The first thing you said about, the first thing that came into my mind was the opposition in the marriage. And I was like, wow, there you go. Same energy, just opposite sides.
It's hard enough when you're not oppositions
they might
to
have
one
other
another.
things that make it all.
Well, let's see. She's a Virgo, so she's going to overanalyze everything, compartmentalize, and try and fix everything. And he may be a little bit more go with the flow Pisces that's a visionary and, wants to focus more on that and looking more for his belief systems and basing things on how he feels as a person, and as in a Piscean nature is very different from a Virgo, who a lot of Virgos and pardon me, a lot of Virgos will become therapists to try and understand their own sort of difficult childhoods or difficult relationships. Some might even say disastrous for some of them. And a lot of them have victim issues in their youth, where they were often victimized, not all, but many. And so she's approaching things in a way that's more psychological, and he may be basing it slightly more on emotional and how he feels as a visionary. So go find the spiritual weatherman, let him lead you. So let's go to the next one.
Hello, Allison. I know without a doubt I am a medium and a psychic. The main problem I have is I get these messages randomly. They come to me like gifts, messages from the other side, for me or loved ones. I have had some premonitions and warnings for world. This leads me to my question. I have only been able to manifest or ask the greater consciousness and get answers with an intent a very few times. How can I gain in my abilities, or what ways do I find a path to hone my skills, to ask and receive rather than just have random, although powerful experiences? So how do I ask? What rituals can help me to get to these messages? Thank you, Allison, with much gratitude.
I think
Have
a
a great day.
Okay. Is her name Lori? Because I made notes on your paper there. My
Lori.
notes, really. So Lori, good question. I think a lot of people want to know how to hone their skills and not being as random, because it is frustrating when you have abilities and it just kicks in from time to time. And for some people, that's the extent of their abilities. That's what they'll find. This is why I did create Dead University for my students, for people with abilities. And they do Zoom practices every week where they pull impressions off of one another. My experience in mediumship is not only is practice absolutely crucial in being able to figure out how to hone your skills and not be random, but because I was brought into a laboratory in my 20s and studied by scientists, I didn't realize it was an option to be random. So I'm wired to be able to pull that information at will. I can only speak to my own experience because I don't know how much of a gift other people have. It can't be a blanket answer. But I can say the one factor that does apply to all skill sets would be practicing and learning your accuracy rate. Also being able to tap into the energy. I talk to my dad when I do readings, who's obviously passed, and I say, Dad, please focus the energy and turn up their volume. And he tweaks the energy of the other side and helps me with that to align our energies so that it's a strong reading, which is what I need every time. We have to hit it out of the park every time, unlike most professions, which is a very high standard to be held to. So if Lori wants to do this in a not random sort of way, it's going to require her strengthening her abilities and being able to, once you know your accuracy on tapping into someone's energy and making that connection, and you start writing the impressions connected to the person of what you're picking up, then your accuracy level gives you confidence to be able to do other readings and know, no, I know what I'm hearing. This is accurate. You're going to figure it out. Refer back to the information later, which I always hear back from people. They're always shocked that the dead knew more than they do, which blows my mind. If we had all the answers, you wouldn't need people like me. And so when you go to a medium, just be open to the fact that you may get information that's counter to what you're instinctually getting, which is what makes it valuable because it gives you a heads up. But I would say learning your accuracy rate ties directly in with a lot of practice. What say you?
Yeah, when I remember when you started, there was a lot of practice, and it was being honest with yourself of what were the hits, and it wasn't so much misses, but that you knew the feeling of what was when you knew what you knew, the feeling of that, and then you knew when it was like your own, thoughts
You
and things
also
like
have
that.
to learn how to read it in a different way, because you'll pull information. For instance, you're getting the name Jack connected to the person that you're reading for, your sitter. And you keep getting Jack, but Jack doesn't feel like enough. Well, now names have morphed into all kinds of strange avenues, and it makes it a lot harder because we're not dealing with our basic vocabulary that we normally were able to pull from, which is why when I do foreign readings, I steer clear of a lot of the foreign names. But Jack can become now Jackson
Sure.
in energy, but it's a different energy.
Yeah. So learning all that and then having the confidence, I think that helps. And maybe what her question was, though, how is it that when Allison DuBois does a reading, she asks specifically, who do you want to bring through? And other mediums might be like, well, they'll just bring through whoever they can feel. Now, part of that's because your abilities are at that level that you can pick and choose. But I think also part of it is that your borders and boundaries are strong. So the other side knows you're not talking to them unless it's the person you're asking for. And that's a little, I don't know, I suppose maybe you have a reputation on the other side of that's who you are. And Lori would need to build that reputation.
I think a lot of mediums don't know how to stylize their abilities and their methods. So for my students, I'd always tell them, if somebody has a half-hour reading booked or an hour reading booked, and they want to hear from someone in particular, you should be able to get that person, not play the game of, I'm feeling a grandmother or I'm feeling an uncle, and we can do that, but it takes longer to get to the person that they want to hear from. You just ate up their time. It ate up their money. I find that to be a method that doesn't work for me because I want to give my client the best possible experience. So when I do a reading, I say, who do you want brought through? Who are they to you? And as soon as they say son, or niece, the energy of them saying it connects me with the person they want to hear from. And I immediately start writing the impressions connected to that person. I think it's important to involve the sitter on an energy level in this triangulation of a mediumship reading. So maybe because I jumped through all the hoops 25 years ago, and I had learned the hard way and I did it in a laboratory, maybe it made me a little more effective than a lot of mediums because I knew what scientists would not put up with. And I knew what I had to be able to do in a 10-minute window, not in an hour. So I don't mean making demands on the other side. I mean making the right connection. So for Lori to practice bringing specific people through for sitters would be very helpful. And I suggest to all young mediums or learning mediums out there that when you do a reading, ask who they want brought through. You don't need the name. You just need the relationship to the person. And that should be enough to be able to start pulling information in your automatic writing of impressions. That's how it works for me. Try it for you. See how that works.
When you do a reading, you do take time beforehand to prepare. I always kind of think of it as like a singer before they go on stage. It's not just their voice that they're getting their emotional state to the point where they can give what they need to give. And for Lori, she said it kind of comes and goes. She doesn't know when she's going to be able to do it. And perhaps that's what she needs to learn is what that feeling is so she can get her emotional state to that feeling, in a sense, on command.
Well, maybe when she's saying it comes and goes, it could actually be that the things that she's considered coming in, the information that's coming in, is stronger energy. it's something more important. It's something pivotal in her life. It's something that she can't ignore, even if it's just having a sense that the phone's going to ring and it's your mother, and being right about that. The energy of the parent is strong enough to make it a stronger feeling. So it could be that. And it can't be, you can't constantly be pulling information through that part of yourself 24/7. So it's probably always there. It's just she may have a niche in one area or another that it comes more easily in that way for her. It would be hard to say without seeing what she does, but that's my advice.
Lori, keep a diary. You'll figure it out.
Journals help.
All right. You ready for Ann?
Born ready.
Hi, Allison. This is Ann from Wisconsin. I've been really enjoying your podcast. I have a question. My mom passed a little over 20 years ago. She was very strict Catholic. I really did believe if you were gay that you would go to hell. So my question is, my youngest daughter, who's 23, came out to me a few years ago that she's gay. And I was thinking, if my mom was still alive, I wonder if she would disown her and disown me too. And I'm wondering, now that she's on the other side, does she still feel that way? Or now that she can see things from the other side, does she realize that being gay is not a sin and that it doesn't matter? I'm just wondering if you have any experience with that. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Bye.
Okay. The reason I wanted to address this particular question,
it's a good question
for Ann. Absolutely. Half of my friends have always been gay. I mean, it's just my aunt was gay. She was married to her wife for many years. And aside from that, aside from my own personal feelings, what I can tell you, what I see on the other side, I've always been able to bring gay people through. So they don't go to some negative, dark place. They go where people who either feel the way they feel are, or with family members that they want to be with, and friends. So I can tell you that absolutely gays go where everyone else goes, thank God, or our fashion choices would be in the shitter. I'm just kidding. Anyways.
They've done research on that the world would be an uglier place. So.
It definitely would. That's so funny. So what I would say is I have spoken to Father Nathan. I've known him for about 20 plus years. And he's a Catholic priest. I said to him, gays go where everyone else goes. And we had this conversation a long time ago over dinner, he and I. He acknowledged that he's one of the only practicing mediums in the Catholic Church that is allowed to do so and keep his collar, basically. So I think there's a lot of acknowledgement from people that are sensitives of all walks of life, including priests, that gays do go where everyone else goes. Now, as far as her mom goes, who was highly Catholic, that's the belief system that her mother found comfort in and aligned with. And that's fine. However, once we cross, our perspective does shift some. I find people show far less about religious artifacts on the other side than people would think. It's more about the food, the music, the laughter, falling in love. The more tormented people are in life, the younger they become. Like they go back in age when they cross. But her perspective would shift. She would have clarity on the granddaughter and how the granddaughter feels. And when we become that energy source, once we cross, all of the things that we learned that didn't have an emotional pulse to it, but maybe was from a textbook, but a belief system, the weight of it becomes less. I don't know if people can understand what I'm saying. It just, our soul is, its focus is on the happiness and well-being of people we love. I can say Anne's mom would care far more about her granddaughter being safe, happy, fulfilled than she would be about her granddaughter and who she's with. She would just have far less of a focus on that. So, and if you are seeking answers, you can reach out to Father Nathan Castle. He's great. Maybe he can answer some of those questions from a religious perspective for you, which is why I included him in my book, We Are Their Heaven, because I wanted to answer that for people who are religious so that they can rest assured that suicides don't go to hell, and neither do people who happen to have a preference that, in my opinion, isn't something they choose. It's part of who they are. We're not faulted for that. It's who our spirit is. And aren't we all perfect? That's the way it's supposed to be. You know, God doesn't make junk, right?
Right.
What happened to that? So let's go back to that, where everybody is made and sort of who they are. And then some of what we become is learned or from our environmental pressures that we have in our life, influences that we have in our life. I would just put out to Anne that just live your life, love your daughter, and know that your mom's around you, loving you, protecting you with no judgment. Because the thing that the other side isn't is judgmental. It's an energy place of existence where like energy vibes to like energy. So good people are around good people, which is why I don't see killers, murderers, rapists around their victims, because they're different energy levels. And that's what you either rise to or sink to. So it's interesting that we talk about a heaven and a hell, because a heaven we always have up here, which would be accurate because it seems that there's a higher frequency in people that are good. And when people are, they lack empathy, they destroy, they're destructive energies. They have this low frequency energy, this bad vibe to them. And they kind of come together with other energies that are similar to that. Mm-hmm. That's my view, how I've seen the other side after people die, what happens. Her mother, Anne's mother, sounds like she was a good person. She was of a different generation that may not have understood what the granddaughter was experiencing, because in the grandmother's generation, it was something that you hid. Mm-hmm. And you lived your life and you did what was expected of you. As time goes on, although some things get not so good, other things do improve in that people are accepted for who they love. I think a lot of people have gotten to that place. And we just don't care, in a sense. It's like, go be happy. Go do what you want to do. I don't need to hear about it. Do what you want to do. Be happy. And that's all good. Now, because this is family for Anne, anybody that her daughter draws into her life that's there to love, protect, and cherish her, I'm sure Anne is going to love. But she doesn't have to worry about her mother's judgment concerning how the granddaughter, Anne's daughter, is living her life.
So Anne's mother will be there welcoming her daughter when she crosses.
She'll be there for Anne. She'll be there for the granddaughter. And if the granddaughter's in trouble and needs buffering or protection, the grandmother will be there to serve as that for her as well. Because underneath it all, she loves her daughter and she loves her granddaughter. And that's what becomes the center of all of our function on the other side, is loving and protecting and guiding, which is exactly what the grandmother would want to do. So yes, the grandmother would have a clearer perspective of that dynamic.
Excellent.
Okay. Okay. I hope that answered that. Okay.
I think that answered that. And I think that you just dictated a chapter in your next book. You've covered a lot of ground with that one. I hope so. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Joe. And
I'm sure I'll see you again. I'm sure maybe like in 5 minutes when we're done and we're in the car together, right?
Having dinner, right? Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll be
All right.
there. Yeah. Thanks for the invite. And thank you to my listeners. Tune in next week for a fresh episode of The Dead Life. I'm Allison DuBois. This is The Dead Life. And to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.
Join us next week on The Dead Life. And don't forget to subscribe now to get notified of every new episode.